What's up, YouTube? Demi here with a build guide for a cop-out build of me giving up and finally giving in to the gemling legionnaire pillar of the cage god howa build. This is my version of it, which I'm sure there's been 20,000 versions of it. This one's probably been made, I don't know. This is a CI mind over matter version. So I'm immune to chaos damage and I have a bunch of mana as my health pool basically. But I made it because I wanted a speed mapper, and I've been going through iterations of builds looking for a fast mapper. And eventually, of course, we settled on the correct build, which is the meta version of, which is the meta build of this, because you really can't map faster than this, as far as I know. But as you can see, the whole screen just blows up. I'm using this to run all of my delirious maps that I just like get as drops, because I have the delirious atlas tree set up, so I get like 20% chance for a map to drop with delirium on it, and then I just run them on bluff, because Bluff is a linear map for the most part that you can just not complete. For those of you that don't know, if you don't pull the precursor lever at the end of a Lost Towers map, you don't complete the map. So you can just run it over and over and over again and get all your simulacrum splinters out of all your delirious maps. A build that is very fast and very comfortable and very fun. And you can shove a fair bit of MF onto it. This is a higher budget version. I started with a low budget version that was just like all rare gear, except for the Pillar of the Cage God, the Howa, and the Black Sun's Crest or whatever, the helmet. Actually no, before I had the helmet I just had a rare helmet as well. I was just running like ES gear, so I had like a 800 ES chest, which was like a few divs, and like a 300 ES helmet, which was like a div or two. But you can get pretty high ES using that version. I had like 5.5k I think, with the CI version before I went mind over matter. But now that I'm going higher budget, see it says 0 monsters remain. This is the end of it. You could pull this to finish the map, but if you don't do that, you can just run it again. So that's what I've been doing with this character. I just run bluffs over and over and over again. Alright, so let's talk about it. The ascendancy is gemling legionnaire, or whatever this guy is, because it gives you double effect of intelligence, int, and strength. So you just get way more stats. More mana from int, more life from strength, more accuracy from dex. It also lets you have this, so any gem that you want to use is satisfied by your highest attribute. For me, I have 673 int. I can use whatever the hell I want. Any gem I want I can use. You also get a bunch of quality of skills and less cost of skills, but they take more attribute requirements. Doesn't matter, because again, we have an obscene amount of attributes. As you can see, I'm res capped, but I'm CI, so I don't need to worry about chaos res. And then the skill tree for my current version at level 93, I think I'm 93, yeah, looks like this. You're basically just pathing through a bunch of attribute nodes and getting as many jewel sockets as you can. There's a few important things here. Lightning damage with non-crit hits is lucky. For me, I'm using a Against the Darkness with fire res and extra lightning. I need the fire res to cap. If you need different resists, get different resists. If you want to min-max your attributes even further, you can get ones that are like percent int, percent dex, 4%, 4%, and put it here. When you put this jewel here, all these small nodes give me fire res, and all the big nodes give me extra lightning damage. So I took a bunch of the little extra nodes here just to get the extra lightning. But it depends on which your Against the Darkness is. These are like 3 to 10 divines depending on which one you get. If you don't go for 4% rolls, it's a lot cheaper. But yeah, that's just what I'm running because I need the fire res because my gear isn't perfect. Jewels we'll cover in a second. This node, attack speed per accuracy rating, because we have an obscene amount of dexterity, I have 10,000 accuracy rating, since dex gives you accuracy per... I get 10 dex per accuracy because of the gemling node, so this is giving me 10,000 something accuracy. This gives you a shitload of attack speed per accuracy, so this is good to pick up. More gems, more gems, more gems. Over here there's a 25 dex node with some attack speed, so we grab this because it's just a lot of attributes for 4 points. Over here we get even more dex, increased dex, attack speed per dex. You're noticing a trend here. Jewel sockets, jewel sockets. Here, hits ignore non-negative elemental resistance of frozen enemies. We have enough freeze buildup from our jewels, which we'll go over in a minute, and a little bit of cold damage from this node, that we actually can freeze basically anything in the game pretty quickly. So this lets us just not worry about penetration at all. We just get to ignore their resistances. And this is just more freeze buildup and damage with hits against frozen enemies, which most things tend to be frozen as soon as you get near them. Chaos inoculation becomes 1 life. And we're immune to chaos damage, but we're mind over matter, so our mana is our life pool. Again, 25 int node, Okay, so this jewel is a controlled metamorphosis massive. It allows you to allocate things in the donut. So anything in this little radius you can allocate. So we picked up pure power for lightning damage per 10 int. We picked up lightning quick for lightning damage and attack and casting with lightning skills, which tempest flurry is. Drenched for that chance to shock and extra cold damage, which is what allows us to do all of our freezing. And then over here, we went over to Mind Over Matter, so all damage is taken from mana before life. The way this works with a little bit of ES and a little bit of mana is you go through your ES first. I am using Grim Feast, so this refills constantly while mapping, so this kind of negates all the chip damage. And then when this is gone, I get to go through all of my mana pool before I actually die. So it takes quite a bit to kill this character. You have a lot of mana regen, and then you get this mana flask that instantly refills your mana all the way to full. Let me try to burn some of it real quick. I don't know if this is faster than just holding Q. Q might be faster. See, I can burn all my mana, and then this flask is broken, and it just instantly refills you to full. It's really dumb. It deals you chaos damage when the effect ends, but again, we're chaos inoculation. Doesn't matter. Yeah, so jewels. There's a few cool things about jewels. Number one, magnitude of ailments. This counts for shock percentage and how much freeze you deal. So this makes it easier to freeze, and it gives you more damage through shock. I have like 60-something% shock effectiveness on enemies, or magnitude of shock, whatever. So they take 63% increased damage, which is 63% more damage as a multiplier. The rest of the new jewels, the rest of the stats are like damage with quarter staves, attack damage, elemental damage, attack speed with quarter staves, attack speed in general, chance to inflict ailments is okay. This one, it looks the exact same. Attack speed, attack damage, attack speed with quarter staves, magnitude of shock. Herald skills deal damage. That one's just like a throw in because it was a 5 stat. Attack speed, damage, attack speed, magnitude. Attack speed, damage, magnitude. Like, you notice there's a trend here. They're all the same. Attack speed, damage, magnitude. Attack speed, damage, attack speed, magnitude. There's a trend. They're all literally the same. They all cost about a divine. Attack speed, elemental damage, magnitude. Attack speed. You'll need, if you can get corruptions with like resistances or dex or int or strength, that helps a lot. It helps you resist cap and whatnot, but I only have a few of those. This one, attack speed, damage, attack speed, magnitude. This one is the only other one that's kind of unique. You need a 1 to 2% mana on kill sapphire. As long as it has those, just that line, you should have enough mana sustained for mapping, no problem. And then for bossing, you have your flask. I generally don't need to use the flask while mapping unless I'm getting attacked a lot. But this is just a mana on kill, elemental damage, AoE, debuffs, expire faster because it was a throwaway stat. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? If I get frozen, it'll help a little bit. As for the gear, Pillar of the Cage Gods. This thing is broken. You can equip it at level 1. You can level with this. You can just have it. It's just dumb. It gives you area of effect per int, attack speed per dex, weapon damage per strength. So there's a weird balancing point between your stats where you want to have exactly enough to satisfy the howa requirements, which is attack speed per dex and lightning damage per int, that it balances out these two. For me, here I'll show you what I mean by like checking. You can go in and look at your tooltip and your attack time. My attack time is 0.06. For me, if I drop a dex node, for example, and I switch it to strength for the weapon damage, my attack time goes to 0.07, so I lost damage. So I put this back to dex, and I'm at 0.06. It's really hard to get 0.05. You need 20 attacks per second, which is probably like 900 dex or something. I don't have that, so I'm just staying at 0.06. If I switch an int node to strength, for example, my damage goes down. So I keep it balanced just enough. You just like keep changing things between them until you find the breakpoint where they reduce the damage or reduce your attack time. Otherwise, this is like the highest I can get with my current stat totals. Yeah, howa, Hand of Wisdom action. You want the highest dex int roll you can get, and then if you can get one that is also like 1 to 12 lightning damage for attacks, this helps the most. They're really expensive. That's like 10 div, 20 div, something like that. If you just get a regular one that's halfway there, 1 to 11, the default is 1 to 10. It's like 3 or 4 div. So I grabbed one that's like halfway there. Same with the weapon. You can get an attack speed corruption up to 8%. Those are like 10 to 20 div. 7% is like 2 div. So grab a 7%. This affects the base attacks per second. So this actually gives you way more attack speed than just like you would think. It's not just 7% increase like it is from a node. This is local to the weapon, so the attacks per second base that's multiplied by everything else that you have is what goes up. So get one that has double attack speed, or you can even get like a triple socket for 15% attack speed. It's less than this. This is 17%, so this is better, but you can get 18% max, which I don't have yet. The rest of the gear, Black Sun's Crest, you can do a weighted total of these 3 things, increase strength, dex, int. You look for ones that are at least like 38 to 42. That'll cost you like a div. If you get above 42, they usually start costing like 3 to 10 divs. So this is, again, the budget version of that. Same with my chest piece, the Morir Invictus. This gives you attributes. You can get ones that give you attributes per socketed rune and elemental resistances per socketed rune. People will try to scam you with this 100% of the time. I tried to buy like 6 of these. All of them were scammers at first. They put in a 5% increased mana, so it looks somewhat similar to this, and they just like hit accept right away. It's just make sure you read what the fucking thing is before you accept it, because people try to scam with this chest piece all the time, and it's really frustrating. But make sure it says increase attributes and 10% all res. This should be like 19 to 20 divs. This is expensive. Again, budget options if you don't want to get these 2 things. Rare helmet with a bunch of ES, rarity, an int, sorry, for rare ES helmet. For the chest piece, you can get a hybrid ES energy shield chest with dex and int and a resist as like a budget version of this to help you cap resistances before you get all this other stuff. Same with the belt. If you don't have ingenuity, you just get a mana belt with triple resist, basically, or double resist strength is better. But yeah, I have an ingenuity. This was, I believe, oh god, I bought this last night. I want to say like 20 something divs. I had a 66% before, that was like 8 divs. I upgraded to 78% so that I could get better rings, and you know, you can get corruptions on these with resistances. You can get strength, you can get dex, you can get int. All of those are nice resists. Nice corruption, sorry. Most of these that you buy will be corrupted, so make sure that it's the right percentage and make sure that it has a decent corruption. So this gives you bonuses from rings. Because of that, I only needed a little bit of lightning res from this ring, because you can see that it gives me 50% lightning res for 33 because it's multiplied by my ingenuity. So stats on rings that matter, strength, int, dex, of course. And then if you can get rarity, if you can get mana because you are mind over matter, great. I have a little bit of extra cold to attacks here, and this one is just mana, rarity, dex, int. I don't need any resists from this ring, so I just went for max rarity and stats and mana. If you could get an additional lightning roll, or percent lightning, or added cold to attacks, great, but it doesn't. This is just what I got. Amulet. Same thing. You want all attributes, strength, dex. Obviously, if you're rich as fuck, you can get an Astramentis. Those are like 300 divs. I'm not going to do that, so I just have this. This is a budget Astramentis with a bunch of rarity and mana, since mana is our life pool. I went for mana, percent mana, rarity, and stats. The Anoint is Spaghettification, which is up here. It gives you 7% increased attributes, along with some other shit we don't care about, because we don't need movement speed, because if we move with our Tempest Flurry. Chaos damage doesn't do anything. Minus Chaos Res doesn't do anything because we're CI. Reduced Light Radius never has affected anyone in the history of this game. It's a completely pointless stat. So this is just 7% increased attributes. Great. Boots. You want rare boots with as much ES, mana, and int and resist as possible. You do not need movement speed. The only reason this has movement speed is because they were cheaper than ones that didn't have movement speed somehow. And because you move with your Tempest Flurry, this scales off your attack time, not your movement speed. So the only time that you walk is when you're looting, which is like annoying. So getting a little bit of movement speed on the boots helps, but you don't really need it. What else? I'm using a freeze charm. I'm using a life pot. We don't need this. It literally does nothing. You can't use it anyway. And then the mana pot. This was like 6 divs, 7 divs. They got a lot cheaper. They used to be like 40 divs, so if you don't have this, just use a rare mana pot. It's like the same. It doesn't matter. You don't need the instant refill. You'll rarely be denting your mana that hard while mapping, unless you're getting like attacked by a shitload of things, in which case it's nice to have a panic flask. What else have I forgotten? Gems. That's next. So, Tempest Flurry. We have this link to skills that do not have cost multipliers because of how fast we attack. Only one of these has a cost multiplier, Primal Armament. So we're using Martial Tempo for the attack speed, Primal Armament for the Wed, Crescendo so that you can hit the lightning bolt of the attack twice, the bop right there at the end. It's hard to see, but the actual lightning bolt is the last strike of your skill set. And then we have it linked to Rage, so you get 3 Rage on melee hit. Rage is 1% more damage per stack up to 30, so that's 30% more damage. This is generally up maxed at all times during maps. And then we have Inspiration because this is just something that you're attacking with constantly, and if you don't have that, you'll run out of mana. So use those links. Tempest Spell I basically never use because everything tends to die to the Herald explosions or just me flailing at them with Tempest Flurry, but if you want to use it, I have Conk Effect, Close Combat, Overabundance, so you can have 2 of them down, Font of Rage so that your rage fills up more. This is pretty useless because we have rage on hit, but it's just there. And then I have mana regen because the only time that you can run out of mana is when you're bossing. So if you're doing like a hard unique map boss, for example, you only have so many charges and then you're out of mana. We can't leech because all of our damage is elemental. We can't get physical attack damage leeched as mana because it doesn't do anything. Our physical damage is like 100 average, so you can't really leech enough mana to make it worthwhile. Mana on kill, of course, we've talked about, is great, but it doesn't help when you're bossing. Yeah, so that's my Tempest spell links. Herald links. We're doing the same Herald setups as most people. You want your Heralds to chain off of each other, so we have our Herald of Ice, which is the cold version, set up to Shock, because it's mostly dealing lightning damage because of Howa. I don't have the more shock thing here, because you don't need it. It just has so much lightning damage that it shocks anyways with all of our magnitude of shock stuff that we have, or magnitude of ailments, chance to inflict ailment stuff. It just always shocks, so I have it linked to magnitude of shocks to make those shocks even stronger. Area of effect, and if it shocks things around that enemy as well, just to help spread it around. And then if it kills a shocked enemy, it gives us 35% damage as extra lightning, and long shot, so it deals more damage the further away it gets from us. Herald of Thunder is linked to extra cold damage because we want it to actually freeze things. It's still dealing more lightning damage than cold, but this helps. And if it does freeze an enemy, we get extra cold damage, which helps us keep shattering. It creates chilled ground to slow enemies down when it freezes. It causes more freeze buildup. It actually does need this because it does so much lightning damage that it just kills things otherwise. And then I have it linked to Electrocute. This is a tech that I've been using on a lot of my builds. Herald of Thunder cannot inflict shock, right? But it can still deal lightning damage and inflict Electrocute. Electrocute is a CC, like a crowd control, that stops them from moving and attacking for 5 seconds. So most of the time, you'll flip into a pack with a rare in the middle, you'll explode the normal mobs, and the rare itself will be frozen from Herald of Thunder, it'll be electrocuted from Herald of Thunder, and it'll be shocked from Herald of Ice. Then you just hit it once or twice and it dies, if it doesn't die to the explosions. It's just like a good layer of extra defense, basically, against CC. And for me, when I'm doing these Delirium maps, like the Omniphobia and Kosis, whatever, those guys, they tend to just die to the explosions, or they get CC'd hard enough that by the time I realize they're there, I can just flip on top of them with Tempest Flurry and blow them up. Other links, the last aura is up to you. I'm using Grim Feast just because it's funny. I have 200 ES, and this picks up fragments that give me like 250 ES, so I just refill this constantly and deal with chip damage that way. This is pretty irrelevant. You could use Herald of Ash, you could use Wind Dancer, you could use Mana Remnants, like anything you want. You only use 60 Spirit with these two, so you have 40 Spirit left to do with whatever you want. I just threw in Grim Feast because it's funny. If you're CI version of this, the budget version, you definitely want Grim Feast. If you're not CI and you're life-based or something else, then I don't know, you pick whatever other aura you want. And I have that link to Precision, which gives me 30% increased accuracy rating. Again, I have like 10k accuracy, so this is a big chunk of extra accuracy on top of that, just to help multiply your attack speed with that node down in the bottom right. And then Hand of Sheila, I never use this, it's just there for bosses if you do need it. This is like a lunge attack that applies the marks and curses on it, so I have it linked to Temp Chains to slow them down, Heighten Curse, oh sorry, this shouldn't be in here, this should be Conductivity, my bad. Conductivity to give them reduced lightning res, although this doesn't really matter, and actually, never mind. We're going back to Temp Chains. Again, I never use this. So, Temp Chains means that they are shocked for longer, slowed and frozen for longer, electrocuted for longer, frozen for longer. Like we ignore their resistances, so this is pointless, we don't need this. Heighten Curse, so that gets stronger, and then we have Freezing Mark to help us freeze the bosses, basically. Causes hits against marked enemy cause more freeze buildup. The last link should probably be like increased duration or something, just so this lasts longer. But again, I never use this, it's just kind of an option. I basically just play with one button. Sometimes I drop Tempest Spell if I'm bored. You don't need to. Let me grab the increased duration thingy. Where's my gem tab? I don't even remember what it's called. Persistence, that's what it's called. There, now we have correct-ish links. So hopefully that helps. This build is obviously very meta. People have made it a billion times. I'm sorry if it's been remade. I just was like finally gave in and made it, and it's been pretty fun. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what to do next. I will be mapping with this character for the next forever because it's just the best mapper I've made. And it's very fun. And I like min-maxing it. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video, and that'll be demi out. Bye.